Hey everyone, I'm Dr. Stephanie and I'm a physical therapist, and today we're going to go through a workout that will help your hip flexor strength and mobility. It's very common for people to have tight hip flexors, and the hip flexor, it's this muscle that comes right in the front of your hip here. It's actually the iliopsoas, so it's two muscles. It's the iliacus, which comes from your spine, and that comes into the psoas, which comes down into and attaches to your femur. So they kind of come together to work as one muscle. That's why it's called the iliopsoas. So it crosses the hip joint, and basically the function of that muscle is to flex your hip or bring it up in this direction. And it's very common for people to have tight hip flexors because we do a lot of sitting, and most of the motions we do are kind of forward motions, kind of hip flexed motions. So we don't get a lot of that hip extension where you're bringing your leg behind you here. A lot of our sitting or other motions involve bringing our leg up. So those muscles can kind of get shortened and feel tight. And we can do a lot of stretching and mobility work and sometimes feel like those muscles just stay tight. And no matter how much stretching you do, it still feels tight. And that if that happens to you, it may be because those muscles are actually weak as well. So a tight muscle that is super tight, let's say our bicep is super tight and your arm's kind of stuck in this position, it'd be really hard to bend down and pick up a bag because your muscle's so tight that it doesn't have the full function of the muscle, so it's weak. So a tight muscle is a weak muscle. So same thing goes for this hip flexor. If it's tight, then it's not functioning properly, and so it can actually be weak. So we're going to go through some exercises that will work on the mobility and kind of get it moving better, and then also work on strengthening. And they kind of go together. So we really want to build up that strength and make sure your hip moves through its full range of motion. So we're going to start by laying on our back. And the only thing that you need for this is a band. And you can actually do the exercises without the band if you don't have one or if they're difficult to start with. But it's good to have a loop band like this for some of these exercises. Okay, so we're going to start laying on our back. And the first exercise is going to be a dead bug. And so you're going to bring your legs up like this and arms here. And for this one, we're not going to move our arms. And you can actually, I'm not going to do it in this video, but you can hold on to a weight if you want to and kind of get your arms, well, get a little arm workout, but also just keep your arms there. Okay, so we're going to do a heel tap. So you're just going to tap your heel down slowly and tap the other one. You're just going to go back and forth like this. And while you're doing this, you want to make sure your back is staying flat on the ground. So you don't want it arching up as you put your heel down to the floor. So you're just going to go back and forth. And you can go about 10 or 15 times. We're going to go through several exercises today. So we're going to go through the whole workout. You can follow along. But we're only going to do probably 10 or 15 reps of each exercise. But as you get stronger, you can do more. Or if you want to add them to a longer workout, you can do more as well. Okay, we're going to do a few more. Okay, so the next exercise is very similar. It's another dead bug, but we're going to put a band around our feet and get back in the dead bug position. And this one, we are going to move our arms on. So this one, you're going to straighten one leg and the opposite arm, just like that. And again, if you don't have a band or it feels too hard to use the band, that's okay. You can go without the band. So we're going to just go, back and forth, nice and slow. Again, you want to make sure your back is staying flat on the ground. You don't want it arching up. So even though we're working on our hip flexors here, we're also working on our core, because you have to stabilize your core to move your legs and your arms like this. Okay, let's go one more on each side. Okay, so now we don't need the band for the next one. The next one we're going to do is a straight leg raise. So you're going to keep one knee bent like this, the other leg straight. You want to flex your toes up towards you, kind of squeeze your quad a little bit so your knees stay straight. And you're just going to lift your leg up and back down. You want to lift just about to the height of the other knee, because if you lift too high, then you're using other muscles. And you want to go nice and slow, especially on the way down. And you want to go all the way down to the floor. So you want to avoid just going in a short range like this, because then you kind of use momentum. So just up and down, nice and slow. And you'll feel this in your hip flexor and quad. This one, if you want to eventually, if you have any ankle weights, eventually you can add an ankle weight and make it a little bit tougher. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and switch. Same thing on the other leg. Just nice and slow. Really make sure that quad is tight. So you don't want to be lifting your leg with a bent knee. You want to make sure it's as straight as possible. Just up and down, nice and slow. Just like that. And make sure you're going all the way down to the ground. And then back up to about the height of the other knee. This one, you want your back to be pretty flat on the floor too. You don't want to be arching up. Okay, 2 more. Okay, we're gonna do 1 more on our back, and this is gonna be a reverse crunch. So we're gonna start here. You're just gonna bring your legs up and kind of do a little crunch up like that. So you're gonna bring your legs up, little crunch up. Not too much, just a little, like that. You can also bring your legs higher. Just see what feels most comfortable. If you want to start out with the legs low and then work your way up to the legs high. You don't want to go too fast. You'll definitely feel this one in your core as well. The core is pretty closely related to the hip flexors, so it's hard to do any hip flexor exercises without activating the core as well. Okay, let's do 3 more. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, now for the next 2 exercises, we're going to use a band again. Now we're going to put it around our feet. And this one, we're going to get into a plank position, kind of a high plank like this. You want to keep your back as flat as you can. You're going to bring your knee up like that. So knee up towards your chest. And you may have to readjust. I know as I keep going, I start kind of bringing my hips and butt up in the air. So you want to keep it as flat as possible, although you're lifting your legs, so sometimes it just tends to kind of scoot up there. And if you want to start without a band, that's okay too. So I'll take this off and do a few without the band to show you what it looks like. So just start here, just going to bring your leg up. This is working the hip flexor as well. The band just adds a little extra resistance. Okay, let's go 2 more on each side. And if you want to count those, you could do those with me. You could do 10 or 15 on each side, or you can try to hold maybe 20 to 30 seconds as you do it, and then repeat that 2 or 3 times. Okay, so we got 1 more exercise. This one, you're going to put around your feet, band here. And this one we're going to stand for. So we're just going to do a march. Just going to lift up here, lift the other foot. Just alternate, nice and slow, up and down. And again, if you don't have a band or the band is too difficult, you can do it without the band. It's okay to kind of sway back and forth, just as long as when you sway to the other leg, you stay kind of still on that leg, kind of sway and lift, just like that. This one is a good one for balance too, because when you stand on this leg, you're working on the balance as you work on the hip flexor strength on the other leg. Just go back and forth a few more times. You can also, for this one, if you want to make it tougher, you can hold on to a weight either out in front of you or by your chest, or you can hold a weight overhead as well. And that'll kind of work on your core strength, work on your upper body strength. Okay, let's go 2 more on each side. Okay. So that's a good workout for your hip flexors. That'll kind of work on strengthening them, but it'll also work on mobility. So that's something you can kind of incorporate into your workout. Maybe do that 3 or 4 times a week, kind of get those hip flexors as strong as you possibly can.